So this is section 7.3, factoring trinomials using trial and error. I also call this guess and check because we're basically guessing where our factors go and then checking by foiling out. So when we are going to FOIL, if we have our terms like this, a plus b and c plus d, we are going to only FOIL the first two and the last two. So we'll get bc, ad, and we're going to check that against our bx term and make sure it's the same. We're also going to be factoring trinomials when you have something with a greater than 1. We've always been doing it as a is 1. Now this is greater than 1. Also, sorry if you can hear my son in the background. He is home with me because we're both sick. And he's playing right now. So, sorry about that. We're only going to do a couple of these problems. We're going to do 1, 3, and 4 on this page. I'm just highlighting them so I don't forget and do the wrong ones. Okay, so we have 3x squared plus 13x plus 10. If you look at this, we don't have any GCF that we can take out. But what we can do is we can still factor it. So let's write the factors of 3x squared and 10. So 3x squared, that's going to be a 1x and a 3x. 10 is going to break down into 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. If you write with pen, I suggest waiting until the problem is over because we're going to do a lot of erasing and when we're checking. So on the homework today, I suggest borrowing a pencil from someone else or just being really good at math. Otherwise, your page is going to be full of scribbles. So when we factor, we know that our terms are going to look like this. Our x's only have one place to go. They always go in the front. So we're going to have a 1x and a 3x. That leaves the space right here for our factors of 10. So that means that our 1 and 10 and our 2 and 5 are going to go in this backspace. Let's try just using 1 and 10. So if we use a 1 and a 10. And then if you look, we have pluses, which means these are going to be pluses. Okay, now our goal of these problems is we need to check to make sure we get it back to that middle term, 13x. So let's check. And remember, we check by foiling the two inner and the two outer. So we have a 1x and a 3x, that's 3x. Or a 1 and a 3x, that's 3x. And then a 1x and a 10, which is 10x. If we add those together, we get 13x, which checks. So this is our answer. Okay. Next one, 4x squared minus 8x plus 3. So let's do our factors of 4x squared. So that's going to be a 1x and a 4x, or a 2x and a 2x. And then our factors of 3. That's going to be a 1 and a 3. Then in our parentheses, we know that our x's are going to go here. So let's try to, we need to get to 8. So if we kind of think about it, I'm going to try this, the 2x and the 2x. Okay, so our goal is to get to negative 8. And we know that we're going to have a 1 and a 3. And we want it to be negative here, but a positive here. So that means they're both negative. So let's check. And if we check, we get a negative 2x, negative 6x, which is negative 8x, which checks. Okay. Number 4. So we have our factors of 2x, that's 1x and a 2x. And the factors of negative 15, so that's 1 and 15, 3 and 5. And we need to get to just an x, which is a 1x. So here's my parentheses. So we only have these two options. That's going to be 1x and 2x in the front. And the order doesn't matter, guys. What matters is that in the end, we end up getting that positive 1x when we check. Okay, we're trying to get to positive 1. So any combination with 15 that multiplies with a 2x or a 1x is not going to get us anywhere to 1. So right away, we can kind of think we're not going to use that combination. But what combination we are going to use is the 3 and the 5. Now, if we look, we have a negative and a positive, which means we're going to have one positive, one negative. So we have one positive, one negative, and we're going to try to figure out where it's going to go. So if you think about it, well, if we're going to have one of these negative, the 3 and the 2, that makes a 6 if we multiply. The 1 and the 5 make 5. And if the 5 is negative, that's going to get us to our positive 1. So some of these things you can kind of do in your head. So we know that the 3 and the 2 need to multiply. So for the 3 and the 2 need to multiply, if the 2 is here, that means the 3 needs to go here. So we're going to have a 3 here and a 5 here. And remember, we want positive 1. And that means our bigger number has to be positive. So the 6, remember this has to be 6, means that needs to be positive. So we're going to have a plus 3 and a minus 5. So let's check and see if we did all that mental work correctly, because, I make mistakes. You guys make mistakes. Let's check. A 3 times 2x, that's 6x. Negative 5 times 1x, that's negative 5x. Add those together, that is 1x. So we are golden. If we ever added these together and we got a negative 1x, that means we just need to flip the signs. So if you ever get something and you're so close to your answer, just flip the signs and you'll get the right thing. Okay, flip the page. On this page, we are only doing 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so sometimes when you're factoring your trinomials, you have to factor them completely. You've heard me say this in class. We need to look for a greatest common factor that we can take out first. And sometimes we even have to take out a negative 1 if your a is negative. So let's look at number 1. What is our greatest common factor between all of these numbers? Well, if we go on our factor chart, so we have 30, 14, and 4. Well, if you look at all of these, our greatest common factor is just 2. So we're going to take out a 2. And if you look, all of these also have an x. So we're going to take out 2x. So if we divide each of these by 2x, that leaves us with 2x squared minus 15x plus 7. Okay, well, that factoring out the 2x didn't really help us, so we're still going to have to use our trial and error. So let's see, what's our factors of 2? Well, that's going to be a 1x and a 2x. Our factors of 7, just 1 and 7. So that's easy. Not a lot of combinations to check. So, in our parentheses, we have our 2x and our 1x. And again, the order doesn't matter. You can do 1 and 2. Now, we need to have our 7 and our 1. So let's do 7, and our 1. Our final term is negative. Our middle term is, or our final term is positive. Our middle term is negative. So that means they're both going to be negatives. Okay, so let's check. Negative 7x minus 2x gives us negative 9x. Okay, that did not work. So let's try switching our 7 and our 1. So let's do minus 7 minus 1. Okay, let's check now. We get negative 1x, negative 14x, and that gets us negative 15x, which checks because we were trying to get to negative 15x. And then our final answer, make sure we have that 2x that we factored out front, and we are golden. Oh yeah. On number 3, we see that our first term is negative. We can't have a negative, so we need to factor that out. If we take out a negative 1, that means just all of our signs change. So instead of being positive, they're now negative. Now we can factor our insides. This is going to give us a 1x and a 5x, and then 6 is 1 and 6, or 2 and 3. So now in our parentheses, we have a 1x and a 5x. Okay, we need to get to negative 7. So that means we're going to have 1 positive and 1 negative. So let's use our 2 and 3, and we'll put some stuff in. So let's try it with positive 2, negative 3. Okay, let's check. So we get 10x, negative 3x. That gives us 7x. But we want negative 7, so that's not right. Okay, but we got the same number, just the wrong symbol. So what you do, just change the symbol. So make your 2 negative and make your 3 positive. Now let's check. Negative 10x, positive 3x gives you negative 7x, which is what we want. And then make sure your final answer has that negative 1 out front. Okay, last one. We have 4x squared minus 12x plus 8. So let's go to our factor chart. So we have 4, 12, and 8. So all of these have a 2. But is that greatest? No, it is not greatest, because if you look, they all have a 4. So we're going to take out 4. So let's take 4 out of each of these terms. So 4 goes out front. That gives us x squared minus 3x plus 2. Okay, on the inside, if you look, we don't have a number here anymore. We have, technically, that's a 1, which means you can use big X method. So 2 on top, negative 3 on the bottom. So what multiplies to 2 adds to negative 3? Well, a negative 2 and a negative 1. So now in our parentheses, we have x minus 2, x minus 1, and then our 4 out front. So sometimes, instead of doing a trial and error problem, we can factor out a GCF, GCF, and it turns into a big X problem. Easy factoring. So always double check your problems to see, okay, can I make it easier for myself? If you can do something with big X, that's way easier than doing something where you have to guess and check multiple times. On your homework. So here's your homework. This bottom portion is going to be something that you can factor out. Okay, so look to see what you can take out first. On all of these, I want you to check your answers by distributing. You only have to check the inner and the outer terms. Okay, so make sure you're showing your work on this worksheet. It's kind of hard. I know we will go over it on Monday.